And I am Gina, and this is Will. See it, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. So, welcome, and we are starting to do this YouTube series to kind of introduce people to cardology, astrology, and all different forms of the metaphysics that
Yes.
we love. Yes, and so this week we are going to just touch on the Nine of Clubs since it collectively is a Nine of Clubs week, and how we know that. The beginning of the year starts, the first week aligns with the Ace of Hearts. And then the second week is the Two of Hearts. And then the third week of the year is the Three of Hearts. All the way to where we are now, we have reached the Nine of Clubs. And we will go through all the club suits and then we will move to the diamonds. And then the last 13 weeks of the year ends up being under the energy of the spades. And
Mhm.
with the cards, everything is a card. Everything aligns to a card, whether it's a name, your birthday, your
Mhm.
name can all line up with the card. And so we're going to just be talking specifically about the 9 of clubs this week since it is the 9 of clubs week.
Mhm.
And for me personally, this is the my Mercury card. I am the Jack of Hearts. I sit right here, and so the first card to my left is the my Mercury card, and that is the 9 of clubs. And the nine
Mhm.
of clubs is an energy of like graduating your mind. It's recognizing where maybe your thoughts are limited or your beliefs are limited and releasing those limiting thoughts and beliefs. And what's also interesting, I'm sure most of you have seen, what have you been seeing a lot this week? Graduations, high school graduations, middle school graduations, elementary school graduations, kindergarten graduations, all, kind of fall under this energy. And this card is a deep, deep card. It's the universal knowledge, and it thinks big. It's a vast mind, and a lot of these people who are born as 9 of clubs are like brilliant teachers, leaders in thoughts and beliefs, and really able to bring the big universal knowledge down to a way of where others can understand and comprehend. But just as all nines represent endings, completions, fulfillments, and there can be, because we know that there's highs and lows to all of these cards, there can be loss, disappointment, endings, right? And what I have learned personally about the 9 of clubs is even when something is ending, it's a blessing. It means something better will come in its place. It's like reading a book. You love that chapter, but that chapter has to end, right? And another chapter will come. Don't focus on the chapter that's ending. Let's look towards the chapter that's coming. So that is the nines in just a nutshell of their energy. They are completions, fulfillments, graduations, but we have to be mindful of getting stuck in our head on any limiting thoughts and beliefs and ideas and really graduate them and open up to bigger thoughts and bigger visions and bigger ideas that don't hold us to the same reactions or getting stuck on something or feeling disappointed about something, because again it's a graduation, it's a completion of old ways of doing things and really embracing new ways, new ideas, new beliefs.
Excellent, excellent, and I concur. You have such of a broad hint nine kind of theme there, and when I look at the nine and concentrate on that's relative across the board. The nine of hearts, nine of spades, the nine of diamonds, and the nine of club. Of course, when I'm looking at the nine and the point when you were saying about the ending, everything it has the beginning. So to begin something, you end something. So it's the natural order of things as well. And then the nine, even when you're going into numerology, people with nine life paths, born the 9th day, or let's say born in the ninth month, on a more different scale. But the gist is there are global or universal interact with larger groups and is becoming a something where is they're actually learning and they're part of the unit. They feel to grow and they establish themselves. Oh, that nine does carry that energy of beginning new things because the nine does represent the Pluto and the well, I introduced the Pluto, and I don't introduce, I use Pluto as well as the Mars, and the Mars is the pioneer. So the pioneer has to begin something and end something to start that journey. Or as we are starting, of those are many that's among us that is already continuing the journey. and into the, I want to say, the mystics art science slash, um, we have a greater, broader range, which is nine. So when I'm looking at the nine, I kind of figure I get a flashback or images with the, this is of course dating myself, and the 2001 Space Odyssey, and it had a lot of symbology with the nine or the ninth sign. So we can use that, transpose that as well as the nine and the ninth house for those who have their charts at hand or have that, at this point in the game, they understand where it's at in their chart. And if not, there's no biggie because this is a channel of our channels, among others, is about growing and learning too, is the same thing. And that's, I think, the fulfillment of the nine, and then nines can be also represented as older people, older souls too, that nine energy. And I'm referring to in general the numerology, so forth, because that would be the last number before we go into the 10 or the master numbers, the double digits and the angel numbers, which I think a lot of people is interested into as well. So, in fact, I did a little short about some of the angel numbers. So let's put in a free plug. And Gina, please plug in your channel. People
So I
want to see
just I
it.
just started the YouTube channel. It's guided by the cards. I also have my website,
There you go.
thefulldeck.net, where you can book readings with me. I have webinars, I have classes on there, I have merchandise all based on the cards. I just released an ebook that's on there now as well, and I have another ebook coming out this week, I hope. And yeah, I'm actually a Life Path 9 myself. And I've noticed with once I've learned, the numbers and the energetic frequencies of the nine, it's that humanitarian, it's a giver, right? And
Yeah.
I have two nines right off the rip in my spread, and it made sense why I tend to give a lot. And but I've also learned, and this is for anybody who might be a nine or is displacing a nine or will have a nine strong in their spread this year or whatever year they may be in. One of the best lessons I've learned is the power of no, being able to have boundaries. And it doesn't mean because we will overgive and overshare because it has a humanitarian essence that nine does. And it is like if you think about it, if you connect it to the astrology, the ninth house, Sagittarius, that higher learning, right? That's why I feel like the nines can be like forever students because they're constantly evolving what they know, right? And what they're trying to learn and what they're trying to experience.
Well,
They can definitely search for, different foreign knowledge and higher knowledge, universal knowledge. So that really did represent even just my own life path being a nine. And I, again, one of my biggest things was learning that endings aren't punishment, they're blessings. When something is no longer good for you, why are we holding on to it? What are we stuck to that we don't think that something better could come? And just as my own life experiences, when things are completing or fulfilling, it is time to move on and it is okay to let go. It's okay to release. I look at nines as a maturity, as a shedding of a skin. If it doesn't serve you, and you'll find a lot of times nines and kings will travel together for that reason, to because to get to the king, which is the master of the suit, the leader, the authority, the intelligence, the confidence, you have to be able to let things go. You have to be able to shed the skin. You have to be able to grow and evolve. So you'll see a lot of times nines and kings will travel together for that purpose because we're
mm-hmm,
shedding skin to get to this higher level of being, which would then represent the queens and the kings of the suit. So, with this nine of clubs, and we are in a nine of clubs week, right? And so again, we're seeing that play out with like the graduation ceremonies, but also with this new moon in Gemini that we're still on, it is kind of like transcending the thoughts and alchemizing your thoughts and replacing them and planting newer seeds of better thoughts and really speaking your truth and not holding back and using your voice. And Will can probably talk more about Gemini energy and how it kind of correlates with this nine of clubs week
mm-hmm.
and the fact that we have this new moon in Gemini.
Mhm. Yes. Oh, thank you for the cueing. I'll be remiss also that since we are all in the nine of clubs week and the nine of clubs, this is the we're taking it on. This is also a nine universal year. So we have nines all around this. So, and I've always have this kind of concept when I see a number repeat itself. For instance, you have a double nine in your card spread too. And it's like also the ace of spade with the double seven is there's other ones too.
Mhm.
You have it on the queen of diamond with the double three, but the double number is just like when I see it, it's a lesson that has to be emphasized in the person's learning. I partake of past lives and so forth. So when I see a double number, repeat it. And when I see nines again, I do reference that person has an older soul or have went through a journey among journeys. That is one soul incarnate. Now with the new moon, Gemini, yeah, it's fantastic. Now, depending on your chart, wherever Gemini, we all have all the 12 signs. Let me make that up the front and clear in our charts, in ourselves. All right. From the body, from the head to the toes, a representational of the atomical body we have is represented by signs. Okay. The 12 signs. Now, the Gemini is anything we're dealing with as far as learning and studious is working with. It's also communications. It's also the neighborhood. And it also rules the two houses in anybody's, the third house and the sixth house. So it has a lot to do with the world we start to begin to learn. And that is on all forms because we're not just learning the ABCs, arithmetic. We're learning social behaviors and so forth. So in the Gemini or Mercurian, where I rather, use that too interchangeably, is that you are experiencing by observing. And this is a whole thing. And your process of how you processing it, this is also Gemini. So wherever you're falling, the Gemini in your chart, or just Gemini, we just keep it in general very simple. You're learning, have an opportunity to grow for the next cycle. And then, since we're talking about nines, the new moon the new moon is the beginning of a cycle, which just came from what we said. The dark moon was the balsamic moon, which is the totally dark. And by the way, the new moon is really dark. It doesn't really have a crescent. It's an alluring being that you won't see the moon, and it is that just like coming from birth out of the womb, from out of the darkness to the light. This is part of the process that we have in the new moon. So Gemini is like you mentioned, and is in Gemini. School is about for certain states, and that are leaving out of school for their summer recess. So we see all that. So you'll see a big emphasis on that. So it's also a thing where we may get more in touch with our cousins as siblings and as well as our neighborhood, and short trips is also third house as well. So that's just the tip of the iceberg, folks. And I think I'll leave it at that. And by more, I have to put this in. We're having next month in June an interesting June comes from the god Juno, goddess Juno, pardon me. And you see it's the month of marriages. So, and you see the twins, you see the two partnerships. So you can see the relationships with that. Um, and lastly, we'll have in June the 24th, you're going to have, happens annually, Jupiter and the sun conjoins or conjunction. And this is a very, as my point, is auspicious. So for all you digital content creators, as well as like and non-like, if you can initiate something or have something planned in it, by all means, take advantage of it. It's something that we always have an opportunity to participate in, no matter where you're at in the world. So it's not defined by locality or ethnicity, etc. Right? And I think I'll leave it at that, and you can continue.
Well, what's interesting, let's tie it into the cards and this week, right? So that June 24th is a six of clubs day, which was yesterday on the actual new moon when the moon and the sun
Mm-hmm,
conjunct. So what you're planting now, you could
mm-hmm,
see bear fruit around that time since it will
mm-hmm,
be another six of clubs day. If you
mm-hmm,
were responsible, that's a big part of that six of clubs. It's a very much about alignment, having patience. Your effort is what gets rewarded. And we know Jupiter expands whatever it touches. So the work
mm-hmm,
that you're doing now is not in vain. It will grow, it'll get bigger. And that's even a big part of the nine of clubs because the nine of clubs
mm-hmm,
transforms into the ten of hearts right here. which is
Hmm.
like a big stage energy, popular, a performer. But again, like if your heart's in it, it'll be mass, right? It'll be very big. It can attract a lot of attention. It's 10 of hearts is like an energy of viral or, working with groups of people or working with an
Hmm.
audience, right? And Michael Jackson was a 10 of hearts, and you could just see when he stepped on stage, he didn't have to say a word. People were fainting, and because
Hmm.
he emotionally connected with his audience, right? So we with this Jupiter meeting up with the sun in Cancer, and I know I wanted you to talk a little bit more about Jupiter being exalted in Cancer and what that can really what does that mean actually? Well, can we let everybody know what that actually even means when with Jupiter being exalted in Cancer? And it'll be in Cancer for what, a year, right? And then
Yeah.
it's going to meet up with the sun on, like you said, on June 24th, which is the Six of Clubs ruled by the Eight of Hearts. So that big, again, like social energy. I call it Rico Suave with the heart energy, that, big emotions and a lot
Hmm.
of attraction energy. So if you could just, touch on what that means for Jupiter to be exalted in Cancer so people can really understand the power that this alignment will have for everybody.
Great. Excellent. Well, Jupiter, let's start with Jupiter. Jupiter is one of the planets of the 10 planets from the original seven planets. It is considered a benefic planet, meaning it endures or it gives you benefits in certain everyday language. It expands its fortune. It can give large sums of money. It can also be beneficent in this fact that Jupiter has a lot to do with, again, you pointed out astutely, the learning, education, and higher learning, or the fact that you want to expand your horizons mentally, physically. Physically, sometimes it's overindulgent. That's also Jupiter. So we have always the flip side of that. And at this particular point, this only happens when Jupiter goes into Gemini or any sign. It happens every 12 years. So this is a 12-year event that's in the works, is going to get ready to happen. So I think I'm excited about that. And then planets have what we call ideal locations. Without going into all the formality, and this is like one of the ideals. And I'm going to use an analogy. You're living at home, you're comfortable at home, that's your home, right? But if you go to a five-star uh, hotel, restaurant, you are catered to, feeling so much like you're, wow, this is all for me, one of the things, but actually it's the service. So when Jupiter comes in this exalted place, not only that Jupiter is exalted, the sign Cancer is going to be. So Cancer does represent the home. You may find something expansion in the house. Some people may expand the room, some or the home rather, or some people have family expansion. That could be a new introduction to the family. They can also be more work at home. It could be working from home, and it could be just a family gathering or just getting. If there's certain things of a disconnect through it, where you have a healing process that Jupiter can manifest for you, using that cosmically, so to speak. And I think I can touch the bases where I did off the top of my head on that one there. Art, did I miss anything, Gina? Yes,
No, I think that's good. I mean, I think, Cancer is the fourth house, right? So it is the
it is.
home, the emotional stability, the comfort of home. We know
Mm-hmm.
Cancer also, for me, at least, I find I cook a lot more. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe that is also what Jupiter can bring us, like, getting back to the earth and cooking more and making our own meals. I also find that, since it's a moon energy, because Cancer rules the moon, there could be an emphasis on emotions too, right?
Yes,
I could
yes,
see that as well. And Jupiter's, currently transiting Gemini and has been there for about a year almost. And so we've seen like the explosion of information, the AI and the whole social media stuff. So you see how this, as above, so below, it all really does play out. So what another thing, people could do, they could go back, what, 12 years
yes.
and
As
see where, what was happening at the same time that Jupiter was in Cancer before.
that. Hmm.
Right? And maybe those, even though obviously we won't experience the same exact thing because we've grown and we've evolved, but you can kind of get an idea for you individually if you can go back 12 years ago or the last time a Jupiter was in Cancer and just see what themes were playing out because we all have Cancer in different locations, right?
Exactly.
So it may what may play out for you will be different for me because we don't have the same placements in our chart. So that's something as well, that everybody, is be aware of the way it may show up for someone, someone who has like Jupiter in or Cancer in the fifth, like I believe I do, if you're looking at it from a whole sign point of view, my creativity, my children, my passion, my, being able to express myself more in the creative fields and doing things that I love and like that stage could be something that shows up for me. And I will have to go back 12 years ago to see what was going on in my life. Just get an idea of what I could be looking forward to. And I think that's the beauty of this stuff too, is like it's all cycles, it's all patterns, and you can go back and
Yes, it
visit
is.
certain things and see what was playing out. And the cards help too, because I actually was just looking at, I peeked ahead a few years and I had this huge epiphany that because I'm 45 and in the cards, I'm on the natural plate. I'm on my natural spread. And 3 years from now, I was technically, be on plate three,
Mhm.
and I found that it was when my brother was born, and he was my Pluto card that year. But it really made a lot of things make sense because I started to look at the whole spread and I was like, oh my gosh. So I definitely invite people, if you're learning about the cards or astrology, the best way to learn is to go back to certain things that you've already experienced. So, rather than trying to go ahead and predict it, now you have like a base to say, oh, wait a minute, this played out. Like you can see when you got married, what car accidents, graduations, relationships, children being born, and now you have an idea of what was, where you were on the plates or where what was happening astrologically. You're able to like get an idea of the energy that was there and how it all actually lined up for you. So it's very fascinating. Um,
It is.
it's very, very fascinating to say the least. So, very powerful week when we look at this Nine of Clubs week. And when we look, what I find really interesting about the Nine of Clubs is it has the Jack of Hearts that pushes it, which is a one-eyed Jack and a fixed card at that. And its Pluto card for life is a Jack of Spades, which is also a one-eyed Jack. So the Nine of Clubs does have that potential of being blindsided, right? Or turning a blind eye, or not seeing people as they really are because of these two one-eyed Jacks that are a part of their spread. Now, the Jack of Hearts pushing the Nine of Clubs, I jokingly say, and I am a Jack of Hearts, that there can be like Captain Save-A-Ho and wanting to rescue and be the martyr to people. And that also you will find are tendencies that the Nine of Clubs deals with because that Jack of Hearts
Mhm.
is pushing them. But it also represents like an initiation into higher love, being more giving, being more um, it is a sacrifice card, but at the same time, my new theme with that is you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, because how can you rescue or save anybody if you cannot breathe? And I have noticed that I have a tendency to have a lot of Nine of Clubs individuals in my life because they are my Mercury card. And they do tend to overextend themselves. They do tend to overgive and then wondering why, so what I've learned with the nines is if you're going to give it, you must give it without any expectations of receiving it back. You must give it from the overflow, because if not, the disappointment and the hurt can come because you had expectations that it was going to be returned, or that the whatever the situation was going to be, like that maybe they would do what you would do. And that's another thing I've learned is not everybody is like me because they're not me. And so with this nine of clubs having this Jack of Hearts here, that yes, they want to rescue, and yes, they want to share, and yes, they want to give, but if you can't, it's okay to say no. Because we tend to be more concerned about other people's feelings and how that no is going to affect them rather than worry about ourselves. So if you are nine of clubs, there's a lot of power in no. You're not hurting feelings, you're actually protecting yourself. Now, their Pluto card being the Jack of Spades, they are constantly going through transformation. They are constantly going through an initiation. And it does really require a lot of like like being honest with yourself, because remember it's a one-eyed jack, so they can be blindsided, turn a blind eye, or not see things. And sometimes we know jacks can be very playful and very sometimes be dishonest. It has that tendency. I call the jacks are like either the peasant or the royal. They ride the fence. You know what I mean? They can go from the peasant side to the royal side. And I always say, like, what side of the fence are you going to be on? Um, the Jack of Spades being here, again, like there's a lot of shadow work, letting go of illusion, letting go of deception, letting go of outdated identities. Because what I've also learned too, Will, and this is just from a lot of teaching and collaborating with people, especially through astrology, a lot of nine of clubs have like Pluto on the first house, or and that is a constant, death and rebirth of who they are, their identity, right? How they show up in the world. And we know that they have the Queen of Hearts as a challenging karma card and the Six of Diamonds as that supporting karma card. So there can be challenges with like expressing their love and treating themselves. Again, they want to save and help everybody else. They have to also be able to pour into themselves. Um so they have to be mindful. Like it's really about going like the inner sight rather than the outer sight with them, because of the two one-eyed jacks here, trusting themselves, trusting their intuition, and not turning a blind eye to people when they show them who they really are.
Yes, and astrology. I wanted to just peer back and double back on the new moon and Gemini. So Gemini also, among many things, it has to deal with thought processes. It also deals with words. And starting on a new moon, you can test out the theory, so to speak. You can start your affirmation, write down an affirmation because this is a new moon, so it's in the point of creation, and see how it develops over that 1 month to the next month because it's a 30 to 29-day cycle. So you can see the benefits of it or the increasing attitude change subconsciously as well during from that new moon to the full moon, which will be approximately 2 weeks. So from that date. So any date to the new moon. So you look at that too as well. So I wanted to put that back into context. And now, not only with your using association with or analogies with the chart and the cards. I do love that part there too, and finding out. I have to do some more research when you look at through the Pluto in the first house. Now, anybody with Pluto in first house, no matter what card there, you are definitely a dynamic person. You're definitely going to go through upheavals, and you're definitely going to be going through transformation and have that impact on the environment because the first house also deals with your first immediate environment, please. So even if we come to near the rising degree or ascendant, and that's just going a little bit technical, I'm going to go with that. It can experience since it's the entry of one of your birth experience because it's the time entry or the time or moment. Let's put it that way of birth, and you if it's a Pluto or Uranus and as well as Neptune. There usually can be some type of association. The early birth may have been certain technical things or maybe traumatized because Pluto is traumatic too as well there. So I just want to put that in the mix, and that's a good point, bringing that out. And lastly, since the Six of Clubs on the Gemini on the 24th, well, actually, we're in Cancer. Pardon me. We'll be going to be in Cancer when that happens. So again, that double emphasis with the family, the mother too is exemplified is that we're and the past, and also when we go to the next level on another way of astrology, Cancer has countries that are associated with, and the United States is one. So this can be actually on a very short analysis. I'm going to say that not analysis on that analytically. It can be a boom for the United States, and that could generate even in real estate. You may see increases, influxes with that because that's also part of the fourth house,
Mhm.
Cancer, and so forth. You'll see that overburst, and you may see also businesses that's connected. That can be the food industry too, as well as Cancer too, as well, nursing and so forth, because of the anatomical point that the Cancer wears is the breast and the chest area. So you can see that part there. So just add that in tidbit in there.
Nice. And um that that's it's funny you said the mother because the six of clubs naturally has the queen of clubs, a mother energy in Pluto.
Mhm.
So, and I've noticed too with people with Pluto in the first house, maybe there was an emergency C-section, or the cord was wrapped around, or the baby came out not breathe, there, or the mother
Mhm.
experienced,
Mhm.
trauma through the birth. So yes, it's you see that a
Mhm.
lot. And it's just something I've noticed. Nine of clubs have like heavy Pluto placements, are typically Pluto on the first, is what I've found out. Just and it's
Mhm.
just from the few that I've come across and have had access to their charts. I'm like, wow, there's a theme here. um,
Yes, it is.
Another very interesting thing, two more points that I want to touch about on the nine of clubs before we wrap this up is one, the word cardology actually equals a nine of clubs. So
Mhm.
this system resonates to universal knowledge. And it is a system that, I mean, honestly, not to downplay it, I find it's simpler to understand, and no offense to astrologists, but it's hard to see a sun conjunct Cancer, right? It's hard to visually see what that may look like, but if you can put it to a card, now you have a visual of what that may be like, right? And we know the spread of the card, so it helps us to understand the energy better, at least for me. I have found. And I do love, actually, I need to look up what the word astrology lines up with via the cards, just so I can have a comparison, because it's just how my brain likes to work.
Of course.
Another thing I wanted to point out is, so the King of Spades in cardology is known as like the God card, the most powerful card in the deck. It is also one of the three fixed cards, but it transforms, its transformation card is the Nine of Clubs. So it's really interesting that the King of Clubs, master of all the suits, master of all the cards, transforming into the nine of clubs, shows it's a journey from mastery and authority to mental surrender and universal wisdom, right? And when mastery again, kind of, and that kind of makes sense to what I was speaking on earlier, why you find kings and nines that travel together. Because remember, mastery requires letting go, that mental evolution, and again that being of service, and with that nine, that humanitarian, being of help, being of assistance. So wildly to see that the King of Spades, the most powerful card in the deck, does transform into the nine of clubs, universal knowledge, universal teacher, a giver of knowledge, right? So I think that was really fascinating to see. And its reward card in the nine of clubs spread is a fixed card, the eight of clubs.
Mhm.
So the nine of clubs has the jack of hearts connected to it, one of the other fixed cards, and then the eight of clubs, the other third fixed card, because there's three fixed cards in cardology: the king of spades, the jack of hearts, and the eight of clubs. The nine of clubs is actually connected to all three of them
Mhm.
when you really think about it, right? Because the king of spades transforms into it. The card pushing the nine of clubs is the jack of hearts, and it's the nine of clubs reward card, which is connected to their Pluto card, is the eight of clubs. So all three fixed cards are attached to this nine of clubs energy, which I think is really fascinating when you break it down like that. So
Yeah, the magic mystical seven group. It's even a concept that is not as much explored or let's say utilized as much as certain. There are some that does utilize it much more, and there's some of their techniques. But yeah, that is it, and that's a beautiful connection the way you tied it in,
thank you.
eloquently put.
Yeah. I tend to, when you look at this plate enough, and for anybody watching, the life spread is like the blueprint. This is the spread where all the spreads, this is the plate where all the spreads are derived from.
Mhm.
Again, so Will, he's the six of hearts. Yeah, his whole life spread is right here, right? And the jack of hearts, my whole life spread is right here. The nine of clubs, your whole life spread is right here. The king of spades, your whole life spread is right here. So every card, all 52 cards are on all of these plates. And this is the blueprint. This is where we get everything when we're looking at someone's life spread. Now we can move and see different ages. And this is how you would do a reading for someone, at their age. You go to the plate, you find their card, and now you can see all the cards that they have in their spread. So, but this is where we start the life spread. And this is where you can find your card, and you find your birthday, and there's different sites. hopefully on my site here soon, I will have a way where you can plug in your birthday and get your card.
Oh,
But
you will.
yeah. And that way you can find your card. But for now, this is just a little introduction to what we are going to be doing. And ideally, we'll be doing this once a week to just talk about the energy of the week or different things or different transits that are happening and just give more insight to both cardology, astrology, numerology, and really how we can connect it and how we can utilize it as well for both our growth, our lives. It's been an amazing tool for me, Will as well, and really just diving
Oh,
into
yeah.
it. So this has been a really good conversation, just kind of really touching on the nine of clubs. And yeah, anything else that you would like to add, Will?
Yes, subscribe to Gina's channel, which is
Guided by the cards.
there you go.
And then
And
my
go ahead,
Instagram
go
is
ahead.
no, my Instagram is guided by the cards, and then the website is thefulldeck.net, where
Right.
you can again see more about me and the offerings that I have when it comes to readings and classes and webinars that I've done. And then the new ebook that's out now is also on my website.
Wow. You said a mouthful and then some. Amazing. Amazing. And it's a great opportunity for those who are not really familiar with the terminology we use, but I'm sure they're familiar with the cards and astrology, numerology, and palmistry. And I'm looking at that too as another angle,
Nice.
quite as a depth. Yeah. So I'm always somewhere in the mix with that.
Hmm.
And I think that's a great place. Oh, my channel. I'll be remiss again if I uh Yeknun, Yeknun, and that's at youtube.com. And please subscribe to both.
Yes.
Grow the community, and we actually can actually expand on other works. We'll show the love to us in that way, and it don't cost you nothing too. That's the beautiful thing about it.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate this. This was fun. And we
It is
will, chat with you guys next time when we will probably be talking about the Ten of Clubs week, because that will be the week that we'll be going into. And
awesome.
we'll dive more into that.
And thank you for your patience. This is our first premiere one, so thank you again. And Gina, you did well.
Thank you. Yeah, let me we'll end this. Everybody
Look for a
have a
better
good one.
camera angle too.